it is actually remarkable how willing CNN in particular is to just make up stories out of whole cloth. Now, as if the media needs further beating in the year of our Lord 2024, nearly 2025, because it's not like we aren't fully aware. But I think a quick refresher in just how bad they are is warranted, because the latest amazing story that I think is clearly made up has hit the headlines, and this is just gold, absolutely gold. So you may remember, if we turn our minds all the way back to the ancient before times of 2017, when CNN were just making stuff up, and 3 of their journalists had to resign over it. This was back when Anthony Scaramucci wasn't a hardcore anti-Trump partisan, which a decision that aged poorly, isn't it? But basically, they've had to retract an article alleging that Scaramucci himself was under investigation by Congress for being some kind of Russian asset or some nonsense like that. It was totally fake. They had to retract it. Donald Trump tweeted out, "Fake news!" But what about the other phony stories they do? What about the other phony stories indeed? And it's not like CNN don't have a long history of being, well, either useless or useless adjacent, or perhaps endorsing fake news when they're not writing it themselves. Take, for example, this German journalist, quote unquote, you can't see the scare quotes, there he is, quote unquote, German Journalist of the Year, as far as CNN are concerned, had to resign from Der Spiegel because he fabricated at least 14 stories. This marks a low point in the 70-year history of Der Spiegel. And CNN are like, yes, Journalist of the Year. It's clownish. It's genuinely clownish. And this, 2018, ancient history. The people who did all this have all died of old age, have they? No, this was 6 years ago. This within the current sort of political paradigm of events, the same people are still doing the same things. This, again, is just genuinely funny. Klaas Relotius, a reporter and editor, admits to fabricating parts of at least 14 stories, right? He would make up quotes from people whole cloth. He would just make them up to fit what he wanted to have written in the story. So it's like, right, this is not journalism. This is just non-stop propaganda. Again, just like the Anthony Scaramucci story that they had to retract. This is exactly what they do, and this is a perennial problem with the media, because there was no way of holding them accountable until the internet arrived, until social media arrived. And so, when we see this incredible footage from CNN of a CNN journalist going to Syria, witnessing the moment a man is freed from prison by Syrian rebels. Well, hang on a second. Are we suggesting that everyone Assad jailed was just a good guy? They were just picking daisies and frolicking with unicorns. And suddenly Assad came along and was like, get that man, get that man, get that man into jail with you. You won't see sunlight for 3 months, apparently, which is what this man claimed. And a CNN journalist, a woman, goes in there and she's like, hello, is anyone home? And he's like, oh, thank God, someone's speaking English, which I obviously understand. And I've not seen the light for 3 months. How did he get his hair cut? Like, how has he kept his hair trimmed? How is it he looks relatively clean and tidy? Who was doing his clothes? Look at his clothes. Like, where? What, he hasn't had a drink in 3 months? What are we saying? Like, what? He goes out and he's just looking at the sky. What, after 3 months of darkness, he's just looking at the sky? Look how clean his jacket is. It's quite a nice jacket, actually. Like, sorry, am I supposed to believe that this is some Assad prisoner who spent 3 months in darkness, in filth, until CNN came along to say, no, bollocks, absolute and obvious bollocks. Also, he happened to be a notorious torturer from the Assad regime, apparently. I don't know, what do you do, backstab Assad or something, not torture enough people? I don't know, but apparently, according to various fact-checking organizations, we've investigated his background and aware that you've given a false identity, say CNN. Oh, so you ended up making up a story with this guy, and he just tricked you, bro. Guys. We didn't realize that he was actually Salama Mohammed Salama, the first lieutenant in Syrian Air Force intelligence, with a long history of alleged war crimes and a known torturer. We just didn't know, bro. He fooled us. It's like, oh, so what kind of journalism do you actually do then? Because it seems that what you were trying to do is just create propaganda that was against the Assad regime. Now, I've got no sympathy for Assad, but do we have to make up stories about him? I mean, he was the dictator of Syria, a Russian ally, and someone who, do we not have a long rap sheet of things Assad has done wrong? People Assad has had killed. People who have disappeared under Assad's watch. Like, do we need to make up stories about this? This is so bizarre. Or is it just CNN is committed to pathologically making up stories, congratulating people that make up stories, that it's just easier for them to do this than it is to do actual journalism? Like, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And again, people are like, well, he didn't flinch or even blink when gazing up at the sky, despite saying he had not seen sunlight for 3 months. That's because he's lying. How did he keep his hair trimmed? He's lying. It's obvious nonsense. Oh, look, he's well-groomed and physically healthy with no visible injuries or signs of torture. An incongruous portrayal of someone allegedly held in solitary confinement in the dark for 90 days. Yet they're lying. It's CNN. They lie. That's what they do. They lie for... It's literally their jobs to lie for a particular world view, for a particular kind of regime. And in this case, they were doing their part, or at least they thought, to uphold the sort of global American empire, which I'm not even opposed to the global American empire in principle, but like, does it have to be founded on lies? Anyway, it's not just CNN, of course. USA Today, this was in 2022, had to remove 23 stories after a reporter kept fabricating quotes, because it's just easy. It's just easy to do. It's, you know, I could do the hard work of sitting at my bloody desk on my ass, emailing people for quotes. I mean, I'm not, journalists these days, they don't get off their ass and actually go somewhere. And when they do, imagine how curated her experience of Syria was. Right? Imagine this is like all the hallmarks of a photo shoot, right? It's just easier for them to make stuff up. And because there's no one to hold them to account, or previously anyway, again, before the internet, it didn't matter. Before, like, Elon Musk's community notes, like, it was very difficult to hold these people to account. And so the Fourth Estate got a mind of their own and sort of, oh, well, actually, we don't need to help people. We're not helping the people against the powerful. We are joining the ranks of the establishment. And now we are just another layer above the people themselves to keep them down, keep the plebs in line, keep the establishment chugging along as it always had. And there's nothing they can do about it. There's nothing this is what corporate media is. Like, I didn't know that MSNBC meant Microsoft NBC. I didn't know that. All of these are just organs of the corporatocracy. And that's why I assume you're watching this video rather than watching one of their videos. Anyway, it's not only in purely making things up that these people excel. In fact, the majority of the lies that they tell you, in fact, come from characterization, a form of misinformation which is based on a lie by omission. Right? Now, this was just incredible. This is just the worst possible example of it, right? So you may remember the Waukesha Christmas market attack, where several children and other people died, and it was just awful. And it was this guy, Darrell Brooks Jr., who did it. Right? He did it on purpose. He did it because he hated white people. And CNN's characterization was, quote, a week since a car drove through a city Christmas parade. Now, the thing is, in previous eras, that would have meant, obviously, a driven car, right? But there are self-driving cars now. So it could be that a self-driving car lost control or had a malfunction or whatever and drove through a Christmas parade. But of course, that's not happened. As, again, the glorious community notes points out, a career criminal who's just let out on bail was one accused of driving the SUV purposefully into a group of people called Darrell Brooks. And everyone was just like, what, a car did this? A car got a mind of its own and was like, you know what, I hate white people. No, no, it was a racist murderer did this. And CNN were like, yeah, but he is black. And so we've got to run cover for him. And so we have to lie by omission. We have to distort the way that we tell you this story in order to make you think this wasn't a racial attack from one person against another kind of people. That's what CNN's entire job is, lying. They spend their time lying, which is why Donald Trump calls them fake news. They deserve it. They deserve it. They all bloody deserve it. They've spent their time for decades now lying to us. It's just the internet and social media has made it so that we can catch them in the act.